So, good morning, everyone. And we begin from where we left. Okay, the Delhi Sultanate. We are on the last part, the working of the last Mughal ruler, Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, 1658 to 1707. Okay. Now, the last of the Mughals, great Mughals, Aurangzeb, ruled for over 50 years. So he had a tenure of 50 years. During his long reign, the empire reached the largest size. That means he acquired the land and expanded his kingdom, and it was the largest as compared to all the other Mughal rulers. Okay. It stretched from Kashmir in the north to Jinji in the south. Please underline Kashmir and Jinji. From Hindu Kush in the west to Chittagong in the east. He was an orthodox, God-fearing Muslim. Underline God-fearing. Underline Hindu Kush and Chittagong. Okay? And a strict disciplinarian. He was a very disciplined man, and he was a staunch Muslim. He believed in his policies. Okay. He was an orthodox, God-fearing Muslim and a strict disciplinarian. He paid attention to all the affairs of the state. Whatever happened in the state, whatever happened in the kingdom, he was well aware of it. Okay? He led a simple life and was called Zinda Peer or living saint. Now, his basic ways of living were so simple. He was so down to earth. Being a king, still he followed a very simple and low profile life that he was known as Zinda Peer, living saint. Okay? Underline Zinda Peer and living saint. There were a number of rebellions during his rule. Now, there were many people who rebelled at the time when he came to power. Okay, let's see. The suppression of these took a long time and also sapped the vitality of the empire. Now, he was most of the time indulged in suppressing these revolts, and so he had a tough time throughout his reign to manage his kingdom. Okay? Aurangzeb had increased the land tax, which had been 1/3 during the reign of Akbar. Please underline increased the land tax. Now, there were many policies which he took up which were against the other religions. He was a staunch Muslim. He gave preference to his own religion and did many policies which Akbar had already pushed away. Okay, like Akbar had abolished jizya. He had worked for the welfare of the other religion also. But when Aurangzeb came to power, he increased the land tax again. Okay? Okay, 1/3 during the reign of Akbar and to one half of the produce. Now, the Jat peasants of the Agra, Mathura region rebelled against the high land tax. So the first ones to rebel against this policy were the Jat. And they were living in the area where Agra and Mathura is. Okay. Now, the Satnamis and the Bundelas also revolted against Aurangzeb. So, not just Jats, but also the Satnamis and the Bundelas. Okay. Underline these. These were the ones who were a constant threat for him. Aurangzeb came into conflict with the Sikh Guru Tej Bahadur. Please underline Tej Bahadur. He was brought to Delhi and executed. The Sikhs then took to arms against the Mughal Empire. This led the Sikhs to form a military brotherhood called the Khalsa. Now, Aurangzeb, to curb the Sikhs, what he did was he assassinated the Sikh Guru Tegh Bahadur. Okay, now this hurt the sentiments of Sikhs and they formed a fighting group. Okay, the army they formed and they named it as Khalsa. Okay. The 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, also waged a continuous struggle against the Mughals. Underline Guru Gobind Singh. He was also continuously fighting with the Mughals. He lost his 4 sons in battles. Aurangzeb's policy of interfering in the affairs of the Rajput states of Marwar and Mewar caused a lot of damage to the Mughal prestige. Now, Rajputs were another who were always during Akbar's time, they were friends with him. Because of his nice policies, Akbar's nice policies, Rajputs had friendly relations with Akbar. But when Aurangzeb came to power, he tried to subjugate the kingdom of Marwar and Mewar, and this made the Rajputs go against him. Okay? His longest and toughest struggle was against Shivaji and the Marathas. So even the Marathas were a constant threat under the leadership of Shivaji. Okay? This kept him in the Deccan for several years, though he succeeded in annexing the Deccan states of Bijapur and Golconda. Underline these 2 states, they were subjugated, they were won over by Aurangzeb, the states of Bijapur and Golconda. He was unable to subdue Shivaji and his successors, though he could not do anything about the Marathas. And under Shivaji, he constantly was in fight with the Marathas and he was never able to subjugate them, okay, overpower them. Aurangzeb adopted many anti-Hindu measures that made him unpopular among the Hindus. Now, there were many policies which he followed, which were against the Hindus. Okay. He reversed Akbar's policy by reimposing the jizya on non-Muslims. So see what he did. As soon as he came to his power, he reversed all what was done by Akbar. Akbar had friendly relations. He kept his kingdom as a father figure, he being the father figure, and he treated his people as his own children. He treated equality. He preached equality. Whereas when it came to Aurangzeb, he was just the opposite, right? He had reversed all the policies which Akbar had already enforced for the benefit of his kingdom. And look at him, Aurangzeb, as soon as he came to power, he imposed jizya again, and also he increased the land tax. Clear? Many kingdoms were not happy. One among them were the Sikhs, the Jats, the Bundelas, okay? Then the Rajputs, then the Marathas. Nearly everybody was unhappy with him. He had a great war in the Deccan area. He stayed there for a pretty long time in the Deccan. Okay. Though he suspended it later because of protests, it had caused enough damage. He even ordered a number of temples like Somnath Temple in Gujarat and Vishwanath Temple in Banaras to be destroyed. Please note down the name. Somnath Temple is in Gujarat and Vishwanath Temple in Banaras. These 2 temples were destroyed by him. It was a great setback to the policy of toleration followed by the earlier rulers. He forbade singing in his court. He also discontinued the celebration of Nowruz, underline celebration of Nowruz. Now that was a Parsi festival of New Year. Okay, he stopped all that. And the practice of emperor showing himself to the public. He also stopped this practice of appearing in the public. Okay, with all that grandeur and richy, luxurious life. Okay, he gave up all that. He even reserved some posts in the revenue department only for the Muslims. Okay, the Muslim amirs also opposed these policies. Aurangzeb also donated money to a few Hindu temples. Very few Hindu temples were also given donations by him. There are farmans in Mahakal temple of Ujjain that tell us so. In fact, there were more Hindu amirs during his rule than that of Akbar. Raja Jai Singh and Jaswant Singh were his close advisors. Underline the names of the two Rajput advisors which he had, in spite of he being a very staunch Muslim. Okay, Raja Jai Singh and Jaswant Singh. The impact of all the wars and Aurangzeb's prolonged absence from the northern India, combined with his lack of foresight and statesmanship, weakened the empire. He died in 1707. So now what happened is, because of his unsystematic approach, he could not hold up the huge empire, and gradually the empire weakened. And this caused a great and tremendous loss for the kingdom, the Mughal Empire. Okay? Now, after him, the kingdom was already breaking, and the who took over after him were not so strong rulers. Please switch off your mic. Were not so strong rulers. The kingdom, Mughal dynasty, came to an end gradually. After Aurangzeb, there were weak rulers, and then the Britishers took over, and we had the British rule in India, which comes under the modern Indian history. Right now, we were dealing with the medieval Indian history. Clear? Okay, now the sources which tell us about this period. Let us see. Although Aurangzeb discouraged the writing of history, yet there are several accounts of his time. Underline Alamgir Nama of Muhammad Kazim. Now he wrote Alamgir Nama. Then Bhimsen's Nushka e Dilkusha. Underline that. And Ishwar Das's Uttahat e Alamgiri. Underline that also, and the writer's name. Give us an insight into his reign. Now, these are the three works which tell us immensely about the type of king he was and the administration under him. Okay, so you need to know the name of the book and the one who has written it. Okay, the last part, his successors. The Mughal Empire lasted officially till 1857. You remember the revolt of 1857? Where Mangal Pandey rose to power. He proclaimed himself independent. He refused to take off the cartridge that had a pig's meat on it. You don't know. Maybe we'll tell you later. So, with the revolt of 1857, the British took over and the Muslim power ended in India. Clear? Okay. The successors of Aurangzeb were weak, inefficient, and corrupt. So, they were weak, and they were not so efficient. They were also corrupt. This led to a downfall of the Mughal Empire. The nobles who were divided into factions controlled the rulers. The apparent weakness of the empire invited the invasion of Nadir Shah. Underline the invasion of Nadir Shah. And Ahmad Shah Abdali. Underline it also. There were two invasions. Delhi was plundered and northern India was left in ruins. As this happened, a number of states broke away from the empire. So basically, the kingdom was weak. Under Aurangzeb, it could not sustain its high standards. The later Mughals were weak rulers, and finally, the kingdoms all over were revolting. And then the two invasions, invasion by Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali, led to the downfall of the empire. Yeah? So with this, we come to an end of the chapter. I hope you have understood everything. Now, tomorrow, I plan to take a class. And in the third period, I have asked